Hello everyone and welcome to Creativity Unleashed. I'm a certified structural and pipe welder. Started welding when I was about 11 years old. I enjoy testing out some of the budget options that you can buy on Amazon and seeing how well they do. Here I have the TOOLIOM 135M, and this is only a flux core welder. It only operates on 120 volt normal like household power. It also does stick welding and lift TIG. Its stick welding capabilities, it runs 60-13 very well. Up to 1/8 inch, it runs them quite well. Tried to run 70-18, it really didn't do it, whether it was 3/32 or 1/8 inch. I tried a 60-10 for the fun of it, and it really did nothing. It would not get it going at all, so definitely not going to plan to weld with those. I always think it's nice to try out welding machines on real life scenarios. I'm building some 50-foot trusses. They're made out of 2x2 1.6 millimeter galvanized square tubing, and I'm attaching 3/8 inch round bars. So I'm just using 1/8 inch 60-13 and running that around 105 amps, and the machine does all right. The arc starts are decently well. You have to maintain a pretty consistent arc length so that it runs correctly. It's not super forgiving, but if you know how to weld, it does work just fine. As you can see, another big complaint is it only has a 6-foot cord, which I guess is sort of understandable, but extremely short. It makes it pretty inconvenient to use. Here you can see I'm using 0.8 millimeter wire. I'm just going to show you the setup. Here's the retaining cap that holds in the wheel. It runs 030 or 035 wire. And you can see this is just the assembly, how it goes together. And so I'm just showing this well so you don't get it confused. We're using the E71T gasless flux core wire. This is 0.8 millimeter. I believe that's 030 wire. And so you just put the piece of plastic back on, the spring, the washer, and the wing nut. Now you want to get the tension set just right so there's enough resistance that it can't unspool on you, because otherwise you can get like a rat's nest of wire in your machine, and that can be a real problem. So then you feed it in through the drive roller. There definitely is not a whole lot of space here, so it helps to have small fingers like me, but you definitely can do it. So then the top knob here adjusts the tension on the wire. Here's the gun. It goes in just like normal DINS connectors, but it has a hole in it where the wire comes through. Right here is the connection plug that essentially tells the machine when you pull the trigger what it's doing. Remove, of course, the consumable tip. And I also had some trouble. It didn't want to feed. And so then I had to manually push the wire through and then feed it into the gun, and then put it back on and reconnect it, because it kept, when I'd hit the wire feed button, it kept catching on the inside there. So once I figured that out, it worked fine, but that was a bit annoying for a few seconds. And so then here you put back on your consumable tip, give it a little tighten down because you don't want that to be loose or it'll start arcing out or get heated up more than necessary. And I'm of course using a flux core nozzle cover. It just helps protect the threads from the spatter. You can use the nozzle it comes with, but I like to be able to see better, and so using the flux core nozzle makes a difference. So the flux core welding on it is definitely decently fine. You have decent bit of adjustment for it. You can of course go up to the 135 amps of power, and it has your wire speed to indicate your wire speed, and then you can raise or lower the voltage. You can see the weld there is decently fine. That's 1/8 inch plate to the 1.6 millimeter tubing. And so I did of course a whole bunch of those. We actually ran through the entire spool of flux core over a day or so. Alright, so here's the menu functions. We're on stick welding, goes up to 135 amps. You've got your arc force, and you can turn it up to 10 or down to 0, and then your hot start can go up to 10, and that just affects how much of a hot start you have. Not a whole lot of control there. When you switch to flux core, You've got your wire size, either 035 or 030. You can see there on display. And that, of course, controls, lets the machine know what wire size you're using and helps it figure things out. If you hit the advanced setting there, you can turn the voltage to +3 or -3. And that can be helpful to fine tune your welding. On TIG welding, there is no adjustments besides amperage. You can see that just has plain amperage there. Down on the bottom, you've got your ground and your positive connection and your torch. When you're doing flux core welding, of course, your ground gets connected to the positive and the torch is automatically already connected to the negative. In that scenario, slightly different setup than on a lot of machines. Just how the cable connects straight into the DINS connector. See, I'm running some more 60-13 1/8" rods. I hooked it up to a 50-foot lead because that 6-foot lead was driving me nuts, and I did quite a bit more welding. I welded the whole truss out, several of them, so 30-40 minutes of continuous welding at 100-105 amps, and the thing did not overheat, which is always a great sign. So now we're building some bar joists, doing flux core. So we're attaching some 1/4" round bar to a 3/8 round bar at the bottom and a 1.6 millimeter 1x2 galvanized tubing. These are kind of cool little bar joists we're using for a second floor support to support the floor in the second story. And so you can see the welding does decently fine. Here's a friend of mine trying out the machine for the first time. He thought it was all right. He wasn't as impressed with penetration and control. I think this machine does a decent job at what it does, but I am quite disappointed that it doesn't run a 7018 rod, and its arc characteristics aren't the best for sure. I bought the best arc 145. That's about $35 more, and it's way better. It MIG welds extremely well. Its arc control is just so much better. The display, the functions. This machine seems extremely cheap. I don't know how long it's going to last, and it's all right, I guess, if you're just looking for a really light little welding machine. But myself, I'd prefer to invest into something a little bit heftier that has a lot more features and does a bit better job. So you can make your own decision. You guys have a great day.